Hello everybody, welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. I'm going to do a quick tutorial on how to build a rocket today. It's going to be rapid fire. I'm trying to fit it in 10 minutes if I can. But the reason I'm doing this is because there's a bunch of people starting to play the game because of the Artemis stuff. I was on Twitch the other day and there was this guy playing it. I helped coach him all the way to the moon. So I thought there's probably more people out there looking for tutorials. Here's going to be a quick one of how to build a rocket. We'll start with the command pod. These are great because you can put a Kerbal inside of them and you don't need them to connect to the network stuff in the game, which is great for beginners because that requires setting up satellites, etc. And that can be a bit of a learning curve. We're going to attach a heat shield to it, which is in the thermal tab. Grab the right size so it's flush with the capsule, and that protects us on re-entry. The utility tab contains the parachutes. Put one on top here, and obviously that's useful. We don't want to crash into the earth and explode. Go to coupling. These decouplers are really useful because they can detach certain things. So if we go to fuel tanks, for example, and put a fuel tank here, if we look in the bottom right is our staging. So stage 1 is the first one that will be activated, and then stage 0. So if I click spacebar in the flight mode, stage 1 will activate and separate the fuel tank and anything below it from the pod on the top, which is great for re-entry. We're going to grab an engine. If you right click on an engine, it brings up this extra menu on the side here, and we're looking for the ISP, or efficiency, of the engine. That's what ISP means. 345 in a vacuum and 85 at ASL, which is sea level. This is going to be our vacuum engine because this is the part that's going to go into space. So actually 345 is excellent, we like that. We're just going to add another coupler on. So we're ready to build our next stage. There's a few more things we need to add before we do that. Solar panels generate electricity. If you want to have 4 solar panels on, just press the X key and that's going to let you change the symmetry of the item. I'm just going to have 2. 2 should be more than enough. We'll put them down there. If you want to extend them, right click and extend, and then you can retract. You can also do that in flight, so keep these retracted for the launch. We also need to grab some reaction control systems. Down here you'll find them in the command and control tab. Make sure you have 4 of these around the centre of mass of the vehicle, which is about there, so I actually eyeballed that really well. These allow your spacecraft to rotate and translate during the orbital phase of your flight. That's pretty much it for the first part here. We're going to build out the second stage, or well, the first stage technically. You can place some more fuel tanks down. If you press Alt and click, you can copy paste. I'm going to right click as well and just paint that so it looks a bit sleeker. When we're selecting an engine here, we want something that's better at sea level. I'm looking at the swivel here. That's got 250 at sea level. The Reliant has 265. So you might think to pick the Reliant, but there's one more consideration. If we go back to the swivel, scroll down, that's got a gimbal vectoring range of 3 degrees. This basically means the engine can steer your rocket for you, which is really useful. We're going to pick the more efficient option though, which can't steer as you can see, but there are other options. There's little side mounted engines we can put on. These have a gimbal vectoring range of 8 degrees, so actually these will give us more control than the swivel will. There we go, we'll put those on. What else can we do? Well, we can add boosters on the side as well, so we're going to do that. We're going to go back to structural. No, we're not. We're going to go back to coupling. We're going to go and find a radial decoupler. We'll put 4 of those on, and then we can go to engines. We're going to put solid rocket booster engines on as well, which are these ones. Now these differ from our engine down here. This is a liquid fuel engine, and these tanks contain liquid fuel and oxidizer, and that's what these engines take, right? Same up here, the Terrier also takes liquid fuel and oxidizer. Worth noting while I'm on fuel, the RCS takes monopropellant. Most command pods come with monopropellant pre-installed just down here, so don't worry too much about that. But if you need more, it's in the fuel tanks menu, and it will say monopropellant tank, so easy, right? These are solid fuel. So the difference between the liquid fuel booster and the solid fuel booster is the solid fuel boosters cannot be throttled or turned off once they're activated. So they're only really good for the first launch where you're just going to use them and then ditch them. Whereas we're going to use the liquid fuel for the more fine control, which is what we need for getting to space. Let's put some nose cones on it as well so it looks cool and is sleek. Find the right size. This is always part of the fun, trying to find the right size of nose cone. That's too small. That is perfect. And that's it. Just a few more considerations. We don't want it to wobble around, so we're going to go to structural. Grab these strut connectors and attach them like so. That's going to make sure these are rigid with the core. And then if we also wanted to make sure that these two stages don't wobble, if you go to the main menu, go into options, there's an advanced tweakables option you can activate. If you right click with that active, you can find auto strut, and you can change what it auto struts to. So these are invisible struts that keep your spacecraft rigid. I'm going to do root part, just make sure the decoupler is auto strutted as well. And that should be it. We're going to call this orbit 1, or orbit 2, because I did build another one off screen, but that wasn't very good. We're going to save it, but check your staging, guys. This is the thing that a lot of people miss. Down here, we mentioned it earlier, is your staging. It goes from the bottom up. So when we click spacebar, it's going to activate our boosters, then it's going to detach them, then it's going to activate our steering engines, then our main engine. We don't want that. We want all of those engines at the bottom to activate. We're just going to click and drag our main engine in with the boosters, also click and drag our steering engines in with the boosters, and then we're going to check we've got enough thrust to actually lift off the pad. You guys might build rockets and realise it's not taking off, it doesn't have enough thrust. Click your first stage, TWR, thrust to weight ratio. Anything over 1 is going to take off, anything under 1 won't take off on the planet that you've selected. We want it to be about between 1.3 and 1.5. That's usually a good hallmark for ease of control and things like that, so we're going to go for that. To do that, we're just going to open up our solid rocket boosters here. We're just going to bring the thrust limiter down so they don't produce as much thrust. And that's going to make it easy to control. 1.65, 1.6, we'll go 1.6, otherwise these things aren't going to actually do anything. There we go. These are going to burn for a good long time by the looks of it. But yeah, that's how you build a rocket in Kerbal Space Program. Next episode will be about orbiting. I think I've done a good job there to keep it under 10 minutes. Thanks, guys.